We all know the Gemara gets into some weird topics, and today's daf 30 of Eruvin is no exception. What are we talking about here? We're talking about how impurity, it says somebody passed away in a house that have the impurity of, they would call it tumat met, the impurity of a dead body that spreads from that. But it points out that only through a doorway that the body could fit could the impurity of the dead body pass. This is one opinion. This is not the only opinion. And so the response is, well, wait a second. What if you've got a giant? You've got a house, and you've got the giant, you've got Og, king of the Bashan, who is a legendary giant. What if he is in there and he dies, and this guy can't fit through any of the doorways? What happens to his impurity? Does the impurity not pass through the doorways because he's too big to pass through it himself? Or really is no, do we say the impurity of a dead body passes no matter what the size of the body, what the size of the doorway is? And somebody even goes and say, what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to take like a saw and like cut this giant into pieces in order to get it out of the house, in order to consider that the impurity has to pass through these various doorways. So it's a really bizarre way of looking at this question of, does impurity, is it kind of correlated to the size of the person who passes away, or is it not? Is there something universal about impurity, and impurity spreads a certain way, or is that attached to the body of a person? And like I learned in math class decades ago, when trying to figure out a scenario, you look at like an extreme case. So the extreme cases here is, okay, let's take a giant and stick him into a house where he can't pass through any of the doorways, so we can try to understand how impurity passes through. And it's left as an interesting question. Well, is this going to pass? Is it not going to pass? And does this change if we take this giant and chop him into little bits so that he can actually come out of a house? How does that have to handle? How does that change the question of the impurity? This is what we decided to delve into in today's Gemara, continuing the Gemara's pattern of going into all kinds of incredibly random ideas in order to look at bigger concepts.